So it started like any other football play you might have seen if you watch football. That's how it started. Started with the quarterback, which happened to be me, under center, taking the snap, hoping to make a great play. That's how it started. But it ended probably like something you've never seen. It ended up with me sitting on the ground, not being able to see. It's completely blind. You see, I was a rookie for the New Orleans Saints. I got my first start against the Carolina Panthers, and I was so excited to go out and hopefully bring some of that success that we had enjoyed at the University of Florida and help the Saints perhaps win their first Super Bowl. I was on this game. We were getting shut out. It was no good. Everything was falling apart, but the play in mind came at the very end. I was looking to my right. I'd taken the snap. My first receiver was over here. My second was here, and my third. But what I didn't see was the defensive end on this side, wasn't a tackle, Xavier. The defensive end beat his guy and was coming clean at me. So he was free, running full speed. So I was looking here, and I turned to my second receiver who wasn't open, and it just happened that as I turned my head to look for the third was the same moment that this guy dove head first, and the crown of his helmet hit me right in the temple. You know, today, in 2021 NFL, this guy gets fined, may get kicked out of the game. There's a targeting penalty if it's college. I mean, it's a big deal. Back then, it was like, this is going to be a great hit. Everybody was celebrating this. Well, he comes flying in. He hits me. His body momentum spun, and I spun over. He fell off, and I stood back up. I actually got out of this tackle and tried to look for a receiver, but again, I couldn't see anything. All of a sudden, it was pitch black. I blinked my eyes. I tried to open, try to do something. Next thing I know, somebody else hit me. I landed on the ground, and I was taking a deep breath thinking, man, I'm really grateful that was over. That was a scary moment. So I took a deep breath, opened my eyes, and still couldn't see. What had happened was when this guy hit me, his momentum spun, our helmet somehow locked, and as he fell this way and I spun this way, my helmet had spun all the way around my head, and my helmet was on backwards. Which is funny now, but at the time I thought perhaps I was blind. For a moment I thought I had perhaps died. One of my offensive lineman after the game said, hey, if you thought you were dead, did you see a light? A lot of people see a light. I said, well, I actually did. It wasn't so much like a light coming at me, but it was moving. He said, that was just the ear hole of your helmet as it was passing by your eyes. So that was my welcome to the NFL moment. We did not win the Saints' first Super Bowl. I didn't start many games. We did not have the success that I had, but there's something about that play that sticks with me. Because if you go back to it for a minute, after this guy had hit me, and he fell down and I stood up, at that moment, everything that needed to happen for that particular play to be a successful play was still possible. You know, think about it. The receivers were still running their routes. This receiver was coming out of his break, hoping the ball was coming. The linemen were all blocking, except maybe the left tackle who missed to start with. Everything was still there. It could really work, right? Except there's one thing that was missing. The quarterback couldn't see. I couldn't see the data that I needed to finish that play. It was very important for me to be able to sense what I needed to sense, see what I needed to see. And so clearly the play couldn't be successful because I missed out on noticing that which was most important. One of my favorite scenes from a movie was from the 90s movie called Patch Adams. Robin Williams played a doctor who made people laugh, and that was part of how they got well. Well, one scene, he went into a mental institution, and this guy ran up to him, an old guy, and put 4 fingers right in front of his face and said, how many fingers do you see? And he said, 4. And the guy said, you're crazy. You're all crazy. And he scampered off. And so Patch thought, man, that guy's really struggling. And someone who worked there said, well, hold on a second. You know, that's Dr. Arthur Mendelsohn, one of the smartest scientific minds of our time. And so something clicked with Patch. He thought maybe there's more to see than I can see here. So he goes to talk to the doctor, and the doctor says, don't focus on the fingers that are in front of you. Look past them. If you focus on what's right in front of you, you're going to miss it. But if you look past it, focus on my face, Patch. And as he did that, and as he looked at something beyond what was in front of him, he got we would call double vision, and you could see 8 fingers. The camera trick changed it, and the answer was really clear. And he went on to say, everybody can see what's obvious. Everyone sees what's in front of them and notices, but if you want to really see the answers to things, Patch, you've got to look to see beyond that. You've got to notice something other people aren't noticing. And so today we're talking about the force of words. And what words do we pay attention to? What words do we not? And I want to suggest perhaps that we're not noticing always the right words. A few years after I had had success at Florida, and about the time when I was getting my helmet spun around in the NFL, I was approached by a publishing company that said, hey, you've had tremendous success. We'd love for you to write a book, because apparently if you're successful at something, you can do that, because other people want to say, hey, what helped make this person successful? I'd love to read. So I got excited. They said, hey, why don't you come up with a few things that might be outlines for chapters, some of the key things about your life? So I said, that makes sense. So I made a list. I came up with 7 or 8 ideas. I sent it to them. And they said, oh, these are great ideas, Danny, but those are everybody's ideas. If you want to have a book, it needs to be distinct from all the other books on the market. It has to be unique. So go back and think a little bit more about your life and see if you can find something that might be a little bit different. I thought, okay. So as a young man, I started really thinking about my childhood. I started to think, what is it? What could I identify that might have helped me be successful? And as I began thinking about things, I started noticing something. I started noticing that in some of the key moments of my life, thinking back as a kid, I could actually still remember what I was telling myself in these key moments, that inner voice, the voice inside. So I remember, for instance, I was in first grade, and the only thing that mattered, to me at least, was winning the 100-yard dash in field day and getting a blue ribbon. That's what us old people did. So I remember thinking about it, but what I also remember is the voice inside my head saying, Danny, you are so fast. You are so fast. You might be the fastest kid in your school. You might be the fastest kid in this whole county or state or country. And so by the time that race came, I was so motivated. I ran. I won the blue ribbon. I was so happy. I remember another time taking a test. I was in 3rd grade, and it was a true-false test, and I got to a question I wasn't sure of the answer, so I thought I'd do some research and maybe see what some of the other people were thinking around me about this question. There was a girl to my left. She was really, really smart, so I thought, let's see what she's thinking. So I began to move to look at her paper, and I remember this voice saying, Danny, you're a good kid. You're a smart kid. You don't need to cheat. You're a good kid. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do it. So I didn't, at least at that point. I'm not going to confess every other moment of my life here. But I remember that. But the one that sticks out to me the most, was when I was a senior in high school. We had just finished high school football. We won the state championship. And now I was into basketball season. I love playing basketball. And it was towards the end of the basketball season. We were in the regional finals. And we were playing against the team. We had played them a couple times and they beat us because they had this one unique thing, this one unique person. He was 6'6", 295 pounds. He went on to play, I think, 12 to 15 years in the NFL as an offensive lineman. So the problem with playing this team in basketball was he got every rebound. And if you know anything about basketball, often the team that gets the most rebounds wins the game. So our coach, he had a special idea. He said, we're going to play a unique defense. We're going to play 4 men in a box zone, and then we're going to have one person guard that guy all game. And we're like, yes, you're brilliant. He said, Danny, you're the guy. I'm like, no, this doesn't sound so smart anymore. So I remember kind of absorbing the fact that I was going to have to try to tackle or block Goliath. That's what I call him. But what I remember was the voice. I started walking around my house thinking, Danny, you are so strong. You are the strongest guy out there. I don't care how big he is. I remember walking, this is a true story, walking down the hall to go into the bathroom at my house. The door was shut. And I said, am I going to open it with the handle or am I going to kick it down because I'm so strong? And then right before the game, this guy walks by, and I mean, it's like out of a WWE movie, a wrestling promo. He stops, and somehow he knew who I was. He goes, the quarterback is going down because I'm number one. I was like, this is crazy. But I was strong. First shot that goes up in the game, we're inside the paint. He's bigger, he's stronger, but there's a thing that's called leverage. And if you get lower than somebody and get underneath their center of gravity, you can move them back. And I moved him all the way back to the three-point line. The next time down, I had to get a little lower. I probably can't do it now, but I got lower. I moved him back. He got to the three-point line. He shared some colorful language that the refs didn't like. They called a technical foul, and I made both free throws. In my mind, I was looking at him when I shot him, but probably not. Later in the game, we got kind of tied up, and as I was falling down, I kind of had him leg locked, and I spun sideways and kind of slammed him into the ground. That was me being mad at all the times I got hit playing quarterback. So I finally took this guy down. He went to the sideline and missed like 5. It was like the greatest athletic experience of my life. We won this game. I beat Goliath. But I remember it was because that voice. So there I had it. I had my book, right? Perhaps I had learned how to talk to myself in a way that really helped me in these key moments. So there it was. I was formulating this idea. It was going to be wonderful. I was going to be the guy who could teach you how to talk to yourself. Well, it really kind of took a hard turn. Right around that time, we had our first son, Jonah. And my mom came to help. And thank you all the grandparents who come help when people have young children. Well, I woke up one morning and walked by the nursery. And as I walked by, I heard something inside the nursery. And apparently Jonah had been fussy. And my mom went in there and she was holding my son. But this is what I heard when I walked by. Jonah, you are such a good boy. You are so smart. You are strong and good. And I walked by, I'm like, I've heard that before. I came back a few minutes later, and she's in there. You are so strong, Jonah. You opened your eyelids. You're the strongest little 3-day-old boy I've ever, he's like doing this, and his eyes are kind of going like this, and she's lavishing this praise, and I started to laugh, and then I came back by a few minutes later, and she's still in there holding me. Jonah, you are such a good boy. You are so beautiful and strong and special. And then I started to cry because I realized it wasn't my voice at all those key moments. It was the voice of my mom. It was the voice of my dad. It was the voice of those that had loved and poured into me. Ultimately, I think it was the voice of God speaking through them to me that before I had done anything good or bad, I was special. I was loved. I was created in God's image. I have worth because I'm a human being just for existing. And it was so powerful to hear that. I began to tell this story to anybody I could just to honor my mother. Someone came up to me afterwards one time, and he was crying. I said, why are you crying? This is a great story. He said, I hear a lot of voices too, but they're not always so positive. And then as that sunk in and over some of the work I've done in my life, I realized that there's a lot of other voices that are inside my head as well at different times that were really harsh. I began to realize that there's always the thing happening to us, and then there's that narrative voice that's speaking on top of it. And so often, most of our pain isn't what's happening. It's that second voice that we're listening to. So the 2 points I want to leave you with today. Number one, are you paying attention to that voice that's in your head? Is it true? Is it a lie? Is it helpful? Is it not? Where did it come from? Are you paying attention? But secondly, and most importantly, it's like my mom. We all have the opportunity to help shape that voice in someone else. So whether you're holding an infant in a nursery or whether you're walking out of a TEDx talk and smiling at someone, whatever it is, we have the opportunity to help shape that voice because the voice that's on the inside determines so much of who we are. Thank you, and God bless you.